I'm going to go over what I am looking for markups. So this is a 90% set from a student, and I thought I would just go over some of the things that I'm going to be noting, and I also thought it might be helpful for those of you who might be using Bluebeam to see some things that I do actually in Bluebeam to help you better utilize it, and then the things that I'm going to mark up, or I would mark up, or your boss, if when you get a job, would possibly mark up when you give them a set. Um, so the first thing is on the sheet. The sheet looks good. I wouldn't say there's much wrong with it, but architect, all the information is here that we want, but what we would like to do in an office is make everything clean and easily readable and look good. So part of setting up a drawing is also making it look presentable, in just a, you know, how do I say, just like a, just, I mean, it is sort of um, an art to presenting the page, because you want it to be clear, easy to read, easy to follow. So even presentation is important. So I'm going to paste back in the markups that I did. So here, in the the sheet list, there will be little to fix this. So see how the text is going to two lines. So we'd want to make it all be on one line. So you'd want to move this left, and I just marked up move left, and then stretch text so that fits on one line, so that all of these elevations would pop up here next to exterior. And same thing with the door and window. So you want to move it far enough over so that you could stretch this sheet list. And if you select the sheet list, it'll give you little triangles here, so that you can adjust the widths. And then this um, this perspective view is really nice, but I think it could stand to be bigger to fill up, kind of fill up the page, just to make it look better, as far as being able to see it a little better. Just because this is our cover sheet. And so a couple things I see here already that I would probably didn't notice when I was going around first, but on these elevations, we're going to want to move the garage door down to level 1. We're going to want to add, in one of the videos I showed basically we duplicated our exterior wall type, and we made a wall type that was just the siding layer. I just hit R for rectangle, and then I open up the properties here to adjust this width of the line, so I can show the layers. And then so you'd want just a wall type that showed the siding and the plywood sheathing. And so basically we would take this wall type that we duplicate, and we would use it here to kind of cover up the bottom here. So and then I'm going to change the color of the line to that same color so we can't see it. And so we'd want to take this wall type, and we would want to apply it to level 1, and we'd want it to be negative whatever this distance is. So if this distance is 1 foot from this, I'm assuming is probably going to be level 1, we'd want to place this wall type that is just the siding and the plywood here to level 1. So basically, like if you could imagine, there is, let's see, we have a nice little tool for that. Do we? We do not, but that's okay. So if you could imagine here that there is level 1 here, this wall type, you would want to have the um, top level at let's see, at level 1, and the offset would be 0, and then the base level would equal -1. For this wall type. These doors would come down to that, whatever that garage height is. You would get rid of the top plate because you don't need it here. And these walls, I would detach them. So if this wall should just be at the garage, but if it was part of the rest of the house, you would want to split the wall and then lower these walls down to the top of the garage slab here. Okay, but other than that, I think it looks really good. Let's move on to the next sheet. I've got some markups here. So we added, A500 from wall types, I think, in the video, and then we gave some notes about where the dimensions are located. But now that we have door types and wall types, which I didn't add in that video, but we would want to add those to this too, so that for door types they could look and they wouldn't have to look at the index. They could say, oh, for door types they want to see A501, and for wall types also, or for window types. So I just add more to this note, and I would add a box. Here you would probably want to duplicate the text just in case you're using this text anywhere else, and add a box around. So in some of these, I'll show you in Revit how to do that real quick. And then so this planting, we don't really need to see the planting in this view. It kind of mucks up the view, as it were. So I'd hide planting, so you can either right click and hide in view, and I'd be by category. And so and then I'd also hide the entourage category. And then to clean up some of this, you would move this this section end down, so that you could it's not conflicting with any of your dimensions. Also, you can break the section so that the line only extends here. And let me show you in mine. Some of these cleanup things I think will be good for you to do. Let's see. So in mine, I might have done some of these things. Sometimes I do them without thinking or explaining. So I've got to get better about doing that for sure. But it just becomes, once you do this for a while, it just becomes second nature. And architect or engineer, if you're working for structural engineer, mechanical engineer, they might sit you down and go over a lot of these things, and they'll probably do it a couple times, and then you'll catch on. So so the markup here was to split break lines for these tags. And so what that means is, if you select one of these sections, there's a little break here in the middle. If you click that, it separates this line. And so it's good to not have lines that are inside of your building that could cause confusion. So once you do that, if you grab the little circular grip, you can pull them back. And so I can pull that back to kind of clear it up, and I'll do the same with this one. Pretty easy, quick fix that kind of helps, get your drawings cleaned up. Often too, building sections, they will, depending on where you work, they may require the detail callout head to be on both sides. And so to do that in Revit, you just have to click this little circular cycle selection tail, so it goes through all the options. And so that'd probably be a good idea, but that's I don't always do that. Sometimes it's too crowded to do that, but in this drawing, I think it's okay. To hide, so let's go back to the markup. So that was that one. Hide entourage. So basically to hide categories, so I'm going to go to view, or you can find this in the properties palette, but the visibility graphics is either here or here. And if you go in there, you can hide entourage, planting, site. So you can hide and unhide in the visibility graphics. Or another quick way to do it is if you select the item you want to hide, right click, hide in view, but you'll want to do category, not element. Element will hide the individual view or item. So if you hide category, it'll basically unchecks this planting. So for whatever you have. So here's entourage. This might be on site. So yeah, sometimes they're on site, depending on the family. But the easiest way, instead of trying to find it in there, you can just right click, hide in view, and category. And so another comment that I had made on this markup. So we got hide in view. So here are just the dimension line kind of goes over this column. So we'd want to move this dimension down. You may need to relocate this wall type, down. And it might not be too bad now that we've cleared up this planting. So, maybe move these down so that when we move this dimension, these wall types won't be conflicting. And then, so when you draw a floor, it will often create this direction line. So it's a direction line for the framing. And so you can just select that and delete it. Here, there's a little jog in the wall. So we can add dimensions here for that jog. Since I don't think it would be good to add a grid on these, because sometimes grids are mostly for like the main walls. So it really kind of gives you an idea of where it's at. But if you had a grid at every intersection, it gets kind of messy. So here, even though we don't have grids, we'd still want to dimension from grids or to a face of stud. And so even though this grid is out here, we wouldn't want to pull these out. Because see, if I've had them in here, they can kind of conflict with our other dimensions. So you kind of just try to find the best way to present them. And I think inside here is going to be the best way. So add the dimensions here. You'll want to move these out. When you slide this dimension in, you might want to pull these dimensions out a bit and then move these tags. So everything is based on how you would read it. So if you're a contractor and you're trying to build this, you're going to be looking for specific things. And so here, it's nice to have the tag as close as you can to the wall, and there's no reason that you can't pull these dimensions back to give it a little bit more room to breathe, as it were. And typically, I don't like to skip grids, and that's kind of industry standard. You really want to, I've seen it done often in shop drawings, but really you'd want to dimension from face of stud, because you got to think a guy's out there with a tape measure. He's going to want to come from this corner or this corner. He's not going to want to go from the center of this window to the center of that window to get that dimension. So you'll want to add um, kind of some, easier strings of dimensions. So that it's easier for him to grab. And now I'm going to just in here, I'm going to note that says take opening dimensions from grids, and I'll actually from closest grid. Or face of stud. Let's see. And so yeah, you want to do the same thing here. I'm not going to go over all these Bluebeam commands. I'm just going to show you how I do it, and if you think that it would be useful to use to do this. I know often you're not working in Bluebeam, so just ask if you see me doing something that you'd like to learn. So here, yeah, this is perfect because, and so here again, although once this gets cleaned up, you'd want to, let's see. So you got to think about it even when I'm doing my markups to make sure that I'm not making things confusing too. So I would want to I'd want to add a dimension to this face of stud, and then see they can go from this grid to here, and then I could actually go from that center line to this face of stud, and then all the rest of these are to face of stud. And you'd add a dimension here. Depending on your dimensioning standards, so some offices don't like you to complete the string of dimensions. So, for instance, they might just want a dimension from one side to here, and then and I think the reason is like, so if these don't add up to this overall dimension, then they just know that they can have one dimension here that'll set that wall. They have this one dimension here that goes overall to the corner, and then they're not creating a bust. Although I disagree with that too, because I like to be able to add up dimensions to make sure that things match up. And there's several reasons why they could not match up, but that's just it depends on where you work based on their dimensioning standards, and everybody is going to have similar ones, but each office will have different standards, and it also depends on what you're doing. So often architect will have very specific dimensioning standards because architects are driving all of the dimensions. So structural engineer might not have very many dimensions at all because they're going to rely on the architectural dimensions. They might give a spacing, or if there's specific beams that they really need to have in a certain location or columns, they might give a dimension, but they're also often they'll say see architect for dimensions. The other thing that they'll have also is so like mechanical and electrical and plumbing, they might not have many dimensions because they're really just going to show pipe routing and pipe sizes, mechanical duct sizes, different parts and pieces. And so they're typically not going to do a lot of this dimensioning anywhere. So again, it depends on where you work. But you're going to want to be able to understand and read dimensions from the architectural plan, because all the other trades, no matter what you're doing, if you're a steel detailer, if you're mechanical or sheet metal, all those trades are going to get their information from the plan. So if you're a cabinet guy and you're doing cabinet detailing, you'll need to know how to read the plans and understand proper dimensioning and kind of understand that as you're going through all of these, you'll then notice, like, the architect didn't do this, so how am I going to define where this wall jog was if those dimensions were here? So then you have to write, or your office will write, or you may have to write an RFI, which is a request for information, which they would say, please provide dimensions for south entry wall jog. And depending on that, if you're, as the architect, there may be a cost impact, which means that if there's information that you have left off, it could require what they call a change order. Like, okay, well, you didn't provide this information, so now you have to basically pay for it. So it's good as an architect or wherever you're working to add all the information you can to reduce the amount of added cost. So to a project by having clear information. So back to the markups. So here's another. This is from our structural plan. In the video, I had changed them to be coordination so that we could see the walls when we're doing our detailing. And so we want to hide these in view because you don't want these like stray details floating out here. They're on the framing plan. So you can right click and hide element instead of hiding category like we did with the other ones. And so you can see how I did this on mine. I'm just going to, what I did here, so I'm going to undo that. So reveal hidden elements. So if I've hidden something like this wall section manually by right-clicking and hiding element, the category and the view graphics will still be turned on, but the element will be hidden. This messes with a lot of people because they're like, hey, I can't see my sections, but the section category is turned on. There's several different ways to hide and have things hidden in multiple views. One way is to manually hide them. So on the bottom here, you can see this little reveal hidden element light bulb. If you click that, you can see all the elements that are hidden. And if you were to select them, right click and unhide in view by element. See, category was grayed out. And so in here, I would just select this. I might right click and select all visible instances visible in view. And I've got 5, and not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so I'm going to right click, hide in view by category. And as you can see, it actually hid some other ones because I actually accidentally hit category instead of element. So I'm going to hit Control Z to undo that and repeat that. Right click, select all instances visible in view, right click, hide in view, element, and it will just hide those 5 elements. Okay, and so that was that markup to hide those. Hide entourage. Here I was actually, there's enough room on this sheet to pull up these dimensions, so I would either stretch them down or stretch them up to be out of this deck pattern. And so what I did here, so I think I did the same thing. So I had a deck pattern as well, but it gets kind of messy, right? So what I did was in the visibility graphics, you can either access it here in the properties or in the visibility graphics category. And I believe that is floor. And so here is some modifiers for the entire category. So here I have floor. And I just turned where it says projection and surface for patterns. I set it to not be visible. So I'm going to clear these overrides to show you what I mean. So here, my markup on my own drawing would be, this is to, we want to get rid of this because it's kind of detracting from these dimensions. So I'm going to go to visibility graphics, patterns, floor patterns, and then uncheck visible. So getting rid of the visibility for the foreground pattern and the background pattern, hit OK. And these are gone, and it kind of clears up my drawing. Although I think it looks nice, it looks nicer on the 3D view or your perspective views to have those patterns. But on a floor plan, we just want to have it kind of clean. Because it's really a readability issue that we want the contractors to be able to look at this and be able to easily find the information without too much trouble. Okay, so the next thing on the markup for this page was, we went over that. So here, okay, we went over that. And so I think the last one here was set the view range. So basically this kind of is another one of those things. It's more of a graphical issue. I think it's showing the footing below. So what we'd want to do, and that same thing is happening on mine, it's showing that thickened slab edge. So to fix that, I could either hide, but I think what I want to do is just edit the view range. And so the bottom and the view depth level are set to level 1 at 0. So if I give that a positive 6 inches in the view range over here, then I don't have to worry about hiding anything, except that it didn't work. Let me see. So level 1. We should go higher, but I'm positive that those footings are lower than that. So why are we seeing them? I'm going to go to this view to see, just to make sure. Yeah, they're below level 1. So really our view, we shouldn't be seeing those. So depth clipping is clip without a line. View range. Interesting. Well, let's just check these. So it's slab edges. So I'm going to change that note to say just turn off the slab edge category. So for some reason, my editing, my view range, that should have taken care of it because I'm level 1. I'm cutting at 4 feet. I'm above level 1. I'm saying the depth don't go any lower than that, than 1 foot above level 1. So I really shouldn't see those. I don't have a base level underlay. So why? It's set to architectural. So sometimes Revit is just silly. So I'm just going to right click on the slab edge, hide and view by category. And then that goes away. So I'm going to come back here and say hide slab edge category. Alrighty, so that takes care of that. Oh, some of these things too. This is just a little, I guess, a Bluebeam tip or trick. So what I did is, if you hit G, or you go up to, let's see, just changing my profile. Ugh, I don't like that one. So what I'm looking for is this little snipping tool. Yeah, snapshot. I'm going to change it back to design review. Oh no. That's the one I had originally. So here's this little snapshot tool. So basically it's like a snipping tool. So I can take a snapshot. So if I grab this or hit G, I can take a snapshot of this detail. If I hit Control Shift V, I can paste it into place. So pasted it in the exact same spot. And then, so once I've got this screenshot that I've taken, and actually I could even take it with a little bit of the line. So I'll hit G, going down here, Control-Shift-V to paste it into place, and I drag this up. And then I select it and go to the Properties palette and change colors. I change source color from black to red. And then I've got like a little markup of that same tag without having to do much other than copy using the G snapshot command, which when it's in a vector graphic PDF, it'll allow you to change these colors. If it was just a picture, it typically doesn't, I don't believe. So if I were to do just the snipping tool, I don't believe it lets you do that. So if I were to take that snip, and let's see if it lets me change the color. It does not. So see how the change color is not available there? It's because this is no longer a vector graphic, it's just an image. So that's how I did that. It's a little trick if you ever start using Bluebeam to do markups. That's one way to do it. Let's move on to the framing plan. So this, I would probably note to move at 16 here below, just to clean that up. This looks really good. Here I could have these decks. What did I do on mine? So let's see, what is this pattern? Let's go to your section A300. So I'd have the same notes on here. To move this up. That one's probably fine. But also I would probably have you do the little break lines here as well. Oops, that is not, it's just a dimension. And you can see why we'd want to break these, because it's adding extra lines that can make it kind of confusing. Let's add column tag here. Looks good. Second slab edge, perfect. Yep, so showing the slope. Let's get rid of these slab direction lines again. slab edge below. I like it. So these column dimensions, one thing that is good, or not good, is to have these dimensions overlapping. This overlapping these other dimensions. It makes it kind of confusing. So what I'd probably do is take these dimensions and move them closer to the columns that they're actually dimensioning. I'm actually using that handy dandy G or the snapshot tool. I could actually grab these, Control Shift V to paste in place, move them over here, change color, black to red, so that we can get a good idea of what exactly I want. Here you could adjust this text so that it's not covering up these dimensions. You might even be able to pull these back a bit. Actually, what I'm going to do here, instead of doing a note, something happened. Is I'm just going to show how I want this note to be. So I'm going to delete this at 16 and go 2 by 10 exterior joists at 16 inches on center. And in this case, you could probably get away with just bringing it outside of here. I'm going to change this color so I want the font color to be black, and I'm going to put a cloud around it and put a line width, just so that you know that this is it's a note for this to be moved out. Actually, here's what I'll do. And here, yep, I like that, because that is giving it the location of this. I might pull this in a little bit tighter. And so it looks like, yeah, so I think the delete header or rim joist. And actually also and sill plate. Because I see that's what we're seeing over here on the, see, we're seeing this, and we don't really need that. We need the wall to be lowered. So we're kind of seeing that here. on the framing plan that we see this sill plate. And then so what else? What I would also do, and I think I did it in the garage stick and slab video, is really what we'd want to do also is to have, in place of the sill plate, because you don't want the wall to be sitting directly onto find the in there. You don't want the wall to be sitting on the right on the garage slab. You'd want it curbed to keep it up away from any weather. Let's see. And so you'd want to add, oops, I'm going to make this, so I changed this filled polyline, so I need to right click, set as default, so the next time I try to make this polyline, which is this polygon, filled polygon, I right click and set it as default, so then I don't have to change the settings each time. And I'd want to make this 6-inch curb here. As well. Oops. Where'd you go, little curb? There we go. That's weird. Come back. I'm going to save, because when things start acting weird, sometimes it means they're going to probably crash on you. Not always, but. So, and here, that's what I would do there. And so we can't see those, actually, the details that we hit over here. So I'm just going to put a note. I'll say something like, and so I would also suggest to add a 6-inch concrete curb. I would delete this footing. I'm assuming it's probably a foundation wall, because a foundation wall can't live without the footing. So basically, let's look and see. So Control 2 does this split screen. Here. So in this view, you'd want to align this to the face of stud. I want to add 6-inch concrete curb here. So we got this negative 10 inches. So you'd want this wall to come down and sit on this curb. Actually, what I can do is do the same snipping tool. Alrighty. And then the way to do this also, so if you add this 6-inch concrete curb, you'll want to attach it so you'll want to select the curb and attach base to top of concrete slab. And then you'll want to probably do the same thing. Yeah, I think it'd be okay. You just do this wall. You'd have to give the garage wall along this length, and the doors you'd have to give it a negative offset to be on top of the concrete slab. So this garage wall would be negative 10 inches here. So I'd put here exterior wall negative 10 inches from level 1 here. I'm going to check out this section real quick. And I'd put detail 1 here. Sorry, I'm kind of bouncing around. When I do markups, I kind of am a little bouncy. So what I can do is this. And still using that snipping tool. So what I'm going to do is basically get this rectangle. I'm going to change it so that it's white. Fill color is white. And now I've essentially just hidden all of these. And I'm going to right click and lock that layer so I can't accidentally move them. And then I'm going to reorganize the sheet like I wanted to. So let's see, before I do that, I'm going to see how I moved it over here and it's covering it is because it's a draw order thing. So I can select all of these, right click, order, bring to front. And then this is how I would order them on the sheet. Always keep things nice and tight in anticipation that you would add more later. So always kind of be prepared for that, because architect will likely have more details, or any engineer, or they're going to, particularly when you're new, they're going to be like, hey, we need this detail, we need this detail, here's our basic detail lists, and so on and so forth. I think I got a little overzealous, so I'm actually going to unlock those. Delete, delete, and delete, and delete. So I'm going to just make this a little bit smaller so it's easier to work with. So this kind of thing is what I would do if I were marking up something for a new employee. Often as a more senior drafter, you're going to want to look at it, or someone's going to want to look at your work before it goes off to the engineer, or architect, because they don't have time. They don't have time to look and try to mark up all these kind of more drafting issues. So someone like myself, a senior drafter or more experienced drafter, would do this for you before it actually went to the architect. And it depends on how small of the firm. So if you're working for maybe a still detailer or whatnot, it kind of all just depends. So what one didn't I get yet? This guy here. It might just be your foreman or job captain, or lead detailer or owner, depending on your. So now I'm just going to select all of these again, make sure the order is to the front. And so basically I'm just noting how I would organize them on the sheet. And on this one, you probably don't need that much of the grade showing. Move that down, get these tightened up. And so, and really, this is just a suggestion too. you might actually be able to fit all 4 of these on top by tightening these up. So it's, as you get markups too, sometimes they're not exactly what you have to do, but more of an idea. So really, you could tighten these up. So I'm actually going to put a note. And crop view. And so this will be plywood sheathing. Yep, 4x6 and 4x6 girder, 4x post. Yep, concrete footing, vapor barrier. Awesome. Concrete curb for plan. So this would be actually a thickened slab edge. What to do wall per plan. And apparently I can't spell. I like it. Here we would add that. So grid line to face of stud. And then everything else also. Okay. That all looks good. So is this, let's see, I think 4 and 5, 10. So this is, so I think we have, so I think what we want to do, we're going to hide this in this view, but I think we want this to be a brick pattern. Because I think this is brick or concrete pavers, however, whatever you want it to be, concrete pavers. And so I think you probably want them to be, oops. Let's see, let's make this black. And so how you would do that, so if this is what that, it appears like that's what that's going to be. And so you want to call out post per plan. Concrete. And you probably, let's see, I think the pavers would likely to be, so if we were doing this for real, as it were, we'd have our grade here. And you probably want your footing and your pavers below. And interesting here. Might even be good just to make a little curb for this footing actually too. Just so it's not sitting on top of the dirt. And then you'd probably want a like a sand. They're going to compact the earth, and so what you'd really want to do is you'd want to look up um, some typical paver information and have them, and then note that on your plan. So or maybe you'd want sand and some compacted gravel. But anyway, you get the idea. We'll just show gravel for now. So we got that detail. And let's add a call out, which I believe I didn't actually add. On the video, I think I skipped that part, but then you'd want to add, um, 4x6 girder at, 5 feet on center. Something like that here. And I think here you'd probably want to keep it close. To where you're dimensioning. Let's add slope and direction. And you'd want to add these on all of the slopes. And on a site plan, usually you probably just want to show the roof. So let's see, did I do a site plan? I think I did, but I didn't have you guys put it on a sheet. So what I would do is You know, a working site plan, you might not have the roof, but a typical site plan is like, you know, it shows the roof overhead. So I think I'd made everything transparent so I could kind of work on my site. And it looks like roof. Just gonna clear overrides. Okay. So yeah, I was using this as my working site. But what you'd want to do is for a site plan, and they're usually site plans. Let's make the site plan. Um, um, A100. Make it a 101. And we'll make your floor framing plan. We can make that 102. And then that'll organize them better so they'll have cover, site plan, floor plan. Exterior elevations look good. I often will pull the bottom of the grids up so they're above and they're not adding additional lines to the house. I would hide footing details, similar to the other plan. Also probably add detail here. Let's see. There would be other notes that we'd call out on the elevations, but I'm just not going to go over that right now because it's really specific for the house. There would be more things that we'd want to do to clean these up. Adding, trim at the corners. We'd probably also call out the finish type and the color. But I'm not gonna. I think in this class we're not gonna do that. Obviously, because class is over, so we're pretty much over. These are just more for looks. Yeah, and it looks like you just need to clean up some of the points. That can be kind of difficult because basically you have to add points here and then get some points along here so that it's not trying to, if you think about it as like a sheet that you're putting, you're putting holes in or putting marbles on, and it's going to pull it down, but it's still going to slope. So you would really have to have points that come all the way up here, but then drop the points in here. But actually, I think the better way to do that, there is actually a better way in the site where you can actually make a flat area so that it will cut it for you instead of trying to add points, which I should have went over that. Sometimes I just get in the zone of just trying to do things quickly. Yeah, wall types look good. Yeah, the best laid plans, right? And I think we'll call that a day. I like this house. I think you did a great job. Um, and I think I needed to, I need more time. I need to be clear, and probably have one house instead of trying to figure out 12 different versions. But that's neither here nor there. But I think you guys have done a great job in this course for just hitting Revit, and there's a lot to learn, and you guys are super busy. So I think this has been really good. It's been a good learning experience for me as well, trying to actually show how to do some of these things, and hopefully next term I can apply a lot of the things I've learned this time, and we can you can get a better experience out of it. So anyway, I think that is all for this video, just kind of showing how I mark up and what things I'm looking for or would be looking for had I gone through and done a kind of final markup. But anyway, let me know if you have any questions, and I will be talking to you guys soon. All right, thank you.